American dream is dead. But if I get elected president, I will bring it back bigger and better and stronger than ever before, and we will make America great again. Thank you. Thank you very much.
2016, year of the snake. Time for a change in the White House, y'all. Bring it.
How's it going, folks? Good to see you. Good to see you. Click the share button. Let folks know we are live. We're going to be doing some very practical stuff tonight, you guys. We're going to be talking about how you call your governor, call your mayor, and we're going to walk you step by step. How you do it. What's the best way to do it to get your message across? We're going to share that with people. So click the share button. Let everybody know we're live right now. And I'll do the same. If you want to feel safe in your own backyard.
One choice. Gotta play your trump card. I say Trump, you say hell high. When I say Trump, you say hell high.
Make America.
Make America great again. Make America, make America great again. Make America, make America great again. Time to make America great again.
Trump.
Hillary on cricket, Bill Clinton, Socialist Sanders, that friggin' Flanders, Army Rangers and the Navy SEALs, all stand strong with the arm of the deal. If you like your rights, if you love your guns, one choice, the only one. When I say Trump, you say hell high.
When I say Trump, you say, how's it going, Omar? Good to see you.
Make America great again. Make America, make America great again. Make America, make America great again. Time to make America great again.
There's my Karen. Good to see you.
Are you a real patriot of the USA? Do you like having the right to bear arms? Protect your family? What about the ability to work a job? Have jobs available to us? You know who we need? This name starts with a D and ends with a Trump. Say it. When I say Trump, you say hell high.
That's right, you guys. Make America great again.
Make America, make America great again. Make America, make America great again. Time to make America great
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. You're watching the one and only Trump Talk US live in DC with Suzzanne Monk. I am Suzzanne Monk. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're 8 minutes away from our nation's beautiful capital. We are 15 minutes away from our president's White House. Right over there. Right over there, you guys. Oh, I just got my Mensa plaque out. Just in case. People. All right. We have a lot to talk about. Of course, I want to give a shout out to my Monkin, Chris McDonald in the room. I want to give a shout out to the Trump Towel, my folks, good friends at the Trump Towel. You can order your own Trump Towel at thetrumptowel.com. Of course, sendmeg.com, giving a shout out to our sponsor as well. All right, you guys, let's get busy. We have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of things to talk about. I want to start with what we are seeing going across the country with additional shutdowns. As we know, Florida today issuing a statewide shutdown. Georgia, the state of Georgia. It's really unfortunate because we had a bit of a victory in Georgia. The mayor of one of the local towns had issued a stay-at-home order. The people of that city had gotten so upset, they called in. They got on their social media. They let him know, we don't like it. We don't want the government using force to enforce these guidelines. So they pushed back. And the mayor rescinded the order. You guys, this is what is so important. Calling actually works. Reaching out to your government actually works. Sending emails, going to their Facebook page and commenting, messaging them. All of that actually works. Fortunately, then Governor Kemp issued a statewide order. So we've got a lot of work still to do. We have a lot of people in this country who are still being led by fear. We continue to see these very large estimates coming out of the CDC, coming out of Fauci. How's it going, Chris? Good to see you. Coming out of Fauci, coming out of the World Health Organization, we continue to see these huge numbers like 100,000 to 240,000, which I just want to remind everybody, when we're hearing these big numbers, and we'll talk a little bit about how ridiculous those numbers are, these numbers that the president has been compelled to recite because he's being told them over and over by his so-called experts. These numbers were once over 10 times higher. Over 10 times higher, starting with 100,000, 240,000. They were saying 2.2 million people were going to die. So I find it fascinating. That what we're seeing is literally before our eyes. Dr. Fauci and the CDC have exponentially lowered their death expectations of this virus, and no one is talking about that. No one is talking about that. Everyone is still like, oh, we got to believe these numbers. Oh, well, if the president says it, then it's got to be true. You guys, the president is only as good as the information he is given. If he is being given information that is exaggerated, overblown, worst case scenario by far, doomsday, if he's being given that information, that is the information he is compelled to put out. The problem is not that the president is listening to his advisors. The problem is that the advisors are giving bad information. And we're seeing that those advisors give bad information and change those numbers right in front of our face. And we don't do anything. We go, oh, yeah, well, he's the expert, right? He should know. Well, did anybody ask him why he changed his numbers? Has anybody asked Dr. Fauci why there were 2.2 million deaths predicted, and now we have lowered those numbers drastically to the already ridiculously high number of 240,000 over the next 2 weeks? Now, listen, you know what would need to happen to get 240,000 deaths over the next 2 weeks? 7,500 people a day would die. That's what would have to happen. You know how many people actually die in America of all causes? All causes. That means car accidents, heart disease, stillborns, cancer, all murder, all causes of death in the United States. 7,500 people a day die from everything. Now, in order to get these numbers that Dr. Fauci is talking about, we would need to double that. So in addition to everybody dying for everything, we would also have to see another 7,500 people a day. Now, we had a large toll yesterday, as they were saying, as you know, on Monday, 700 people. Now, that's horrible. That's horrible. Yeah, Marita, I think that's right. We're going to talk about that in a second. That's a horrible number. 700 people dead in a day. It's a horrible number. Let's be honest, though. It is not 7,500. It is significantly lower than 7,500 by a factor of 10. So in order to get these kind of predictions, these kind of numbers at these predictions. Now, why is it a problem? Somebody asked me, why is that a problem? If Dr. Fauci gives a wrong prediction, he's human. But it's not just that he's given a wrong prediction. He's given it repeatedly and repeatedly and repeatedly. He continues to misinform the president. I'm going to pull what Marita said up right here. Marita says probably because Trump called him on it. Yes, that's when we actually got some progress, you guys, with President Trump starting to recognize the issues of the economy, starting to recognize what many of us are already saying. What many of us, and we're going to talk about that in a second too, Sean, what many of us are already saying, that this has been a hoax. Not the virus itself. Obviously, there is a virus. Obviously, people are sick. But the media panic, the need to shut everything down, all of that has been a horrible hoax coordinated by the World Health Organization. And as long as Dr. Fauci continues to have relationships with the World Health Organization, and frankly, with his continued connections in the deep state, not good. Not good. But it's going to take our pressure. It's going to take our pressure to get the president to be able, as long as people are too frightened, to speak up and start to push back. The president will have no choice but to answer to the fearmongers. Do you understand what I'm saying? As long as we don't push back, as long as the American people don't push back, the president will have no choice but to listen to his fearmongers who will continue to tell him, oh, the American people want to stay shut down. They want to stay shut down. I know the American people don't want to stay shut down. They want to go back to work. In the vast majority of places, they want a way to go back to work that, yes, protects the sick, protects the vulnerable, but does not put every one of us out of a job. Now, there's some very interesting information about this particular hoax. They're going to get mad. Suzzanne called it a hoax. Yes, and here's why. So I'm going to pull Sean's comment up. And out of those 700, some are not due to corona. Sean is talking about something that we're finding across the country pretty ubiquitously everywhere. People who have died from other causes are being tested after the fact even for coronavirus. If they have the virus, they're immediately just listed as corona death. If they have pneumonia of any kind for any reason, it's just listed as a corona death. There are people who have died of cancer. Their family members have been pushing back on this, saying, no, my relative actually was very sick from cancer for a long period of time. They died and they listed it as coronavirus. They didn't have coronavirus. They had cancer. They did not develop any symptoms of coronavirus. Yes, I'm going to push it up. They are counting anyone who dies at this point. The information I am seeing from medical professionals is that they are counting almost any kind of death. If you have corona, if you can test that your antibodies for corona, or if you have something that would be of the symptoms, so for example, a pneumonia, they just assume, and you're put down. Cancer, heart attack, heart disease, one of the leading causes. We have thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people, many people die from heart disease every single day. Of that 7,500 people, probably 1,200 of those people died from heart disease. Now, if they start counting all of those people who died from heart disease as COVID deaths, it's going to look really bad. But it's not going to be that bad. And this is a problem we really have. We're starting to see real information come out about the level of misinformation that is being purported on the American people in order to convince us to shut down our country, to shut down our states, and to endure a complete disruption and dissolution, dissolving, destruction of our Constitution, of our First and Second, Fourth, and so many amendments. It's so ridiculous. Let me see. This is a great point, Karen. I have to pull this up. This is a great point. Karen says, what I don't get is that Fauci has been working through several administrations that did not handle other viral epidemics properly. Is it because the other presidents ignored his advice? Or is it because he gave this president bad advice on purpose? I kind of feel that when you are talking about George W. Bush's bioweapons engineer, you're talking about a man who worked for the Obama administration, who worked for the Clinton administration, who worked for the H.W. Bush administration. I mean, do we even remember what the word deep state means, right? How deep in the deep state do you need to be before we go? How's it going from Ireland? Good to see you all. It's out of control. The history on this man. Obi, I agree, Bill Gates, but many others, certainly China being deeply involved and certainly using their ability to influence the World Health Organization. So, but this is the problem, and I'm going to put this up because this is from Twitter, so you can't see it if you're over on Facebook. So let me pull it up. Bill Gates, we do know about talking about Bill Gates' vaccine that he's pushing so very hard, which is very interesting considering that this virus holds a patent, which, as I am to understand, Bill Gates has ownership of or was involved in the investment of. Now, I'm not Bill Gates' accountant, so I can't verify that for you, but I can verify that he is in fact pushing this vaccine. He is in fact pushing hard on this shutdown. He is very involved for some reason in all of this mess, in getting this vaccine pushed quickly through testing without scrutiny. A lot of problems, a lot of issues with Bill Gates' involvement. So that's a good question. How do I think Boris is doing? I haven't followed too much of what has been going on over in England, but I do know I just watched Nigel Farage talking today, and it seems that they have some of the same problems that we're having over here, certainly. But I think that because of the smaller size of the nation, you certainly are going to see people acting differently. Now, the same remains. We're seeing problems with shutdowns everywhere. So I don't know how you guys are doing with shutdowns. I hope you're not shut down, but I'm pretty sure you probably are. You'll respond and let me know. Let me know what's going on over there. I like Boris, but I don't think that this situation, I'm not necessarily convinced that they are making the best decisions, because being shut down is horribly dangerous to the economy. And one thing I did hear Nigel say is that if we continue to be shut down, it is going to get very dangerous because people are within a short period of time going to need food. They're going to have no money. They're going to have no resources by which to get food or money other than theft and violence. And so, Nigel, like many of us here in the United States, we are very concerned about that. We're very concerned about the danger that comes when people become desperate, the danger that comes when people don't have any food and don't have any money and they don't have any hope. It becomes a very, very dangerous situation. So for our shutdown states, Chuck says, yes, you're going to Florida will shut down tomorrow night. Let me just say, for those of us in shutdown states, we continue to somewhat function. There's no business, though. There's nowhere to go and do anything. Of course, you can still go to the grocery store, essential businesses, the hardware store for some reason, the garden store. I don't know why. Different things are essential and are allowed to stay open. Other things are not. And that is entirely based state by state. In fact, here in the DMV area, DC, Maryland, Virginia, there are 3 different ways in which you are not supposed to leave the house, and 3 different sets of penalties for if you leave the house, and 3 different sets of essential business or non-essential business. Every state is doing this completely differently, but they're doing the technique the same. We need to shut down. We need to be safer at home. The same technique. But unfortunately, nepotism is rampant. It's rampant in this. Who is an essential business and who isn't? It's, oh, you guys, The nepotism. And now we see over in Virginia, Governor Northam actually extending that stay-at-home order until June 1st, which pushes them past the primaries. Now we're starting to affect the election. That's great. Chuck is one of those great people. We put the bread on the shelves. We need you. Please keep doing that, Chuck, and please keep keeping us informed. There are some concerns in some areas of the country that supply chains are being affected, and maybe from the panic buying, but maybe from other reasons. We don't know. There's a lot of stuff going on. So let me take a deep breath because we have a lot to talk about going forward, and I want to really break down how we're going to do this and what you need to do. So in order to get these shutdowns stopped, okay, in order to reopen America, as we say all the time here, reopen America to get people back to their jobs in a safe manner, please, for crying out loud, in a safe manner. If Chuck and his friends can go, Chuck and his guys can deliver bread safely, and we are still eating the bread and buying the bread, which we need to live, we can have the rest of our jobs operate also in a safe manner without too much problem. So we need to get this country back up because the devastation, we are already talking about a lower unemployment, a higher unemployment rate than we saw at the peak of the Depression. Seeing massive unemployment, up to 32% right now, unemployment across the country. We were at like 5% unemployment. We're at 32% today within a week's time. So that's the kind of layoffs we're seeing. Those are going to exponentiate because as business closes down, that's what I find so frustrating. They love to tell you about the exponential development of the disease, but when I go, well, there's going to be exponential economic devastation, they go, I don't know, that's not how it works. It's exactly how it works. When the restaurant shuts down, okay, because they are not allowed to do business, then the guy who sells the fresh produce, he loses an order. The guy who sells the meat, he loses an order. The guy who brings the beverages, he loses an order. If he loses 5 or 10 orders in his route, he may shut down. And now you have the guy who delivers the food. He can't get enough orders. He has to close his business. Great. Well, so the guy who gets the fresh produce from the farmer, now the farmer isn't getting local farmer isn't getting as many orders. So he has to drop his prices. Now he's making less money. All of it trickles down to people making less money. Same thing in a business, in the nightclub business, the liquor distributor, the cleaning service, the linen service, all of these things. The guy who delivers ice, the ice machine maker. These all will trickle down. If we have less businesses, less service businesses in particular, there's a whole list of providers, suppliers, and other businesses that are affected. In fact, in Ohio, they have steel plants that had received the waiver to be an essential business, but they didn't give the waiver to the companies that sell the necessary materials to make steel. So the steel factory had to shut down, not because it wasn't essential. It was essential. It was allowed. It was allowed, certainly, for it to be open, but it couldn't purchase any supplies because the companies that it got its supplies from were closed because of the shutdown order. So this is the kind of chaos. When you have government coming in and deciding who's open and deciding who's closed, this is the kind of chaos, destructive, socialist chaos that we see. So it is important that we start to push back on this in each and every state for many, many reasons. One, obviously our economy is being devastated. We are destroying ourselves. We are putting ourselves in a second Great Depression. I am not even slightly exaggerating. In fact, I may be downplaying it. We are in a worse situation right now than we were during the Great Depression. Certainly, and you saw how that dragged out. You saw what happened to people's lives and the generational damage economically and physically and personally that did to people's lives in this country. We're looking at that again. So I'm not being in any way exaggeratory that is the case. But secondly, in addition to it destroying the economy, these quarantines do not work to stop the spread. Even if you convince everybody to go into your house, they don't work to stop the spread. When you start to hear stories about China, you hear about people's doors being welded shut to their house. Now that's a communist government. They welded doors shut in order to make people leave. Now, one of the things I know a lot of people have been talking about is these 21 million cell phones that went missing. Oh, they must have killed 21 million people. Or what happened in a communist government is 21 million people tried to get out of the city before they could lock you in. And they turned off their phones because the government can track you through your phone. And they're using that same tracking, the same communist method that they used in China to track the motions of their own citizens who were fleeing before their government welded them, nailed them, sealed them into their houses. So, did they disable the phones? Yeah, they probably did so that they couldn't be tracked. But guess what? They're doing that with us. They're threatening to use cell phone data to track our motions, our movements, so that we can determine if we have spread the virus. Here's the reality, folks. When you begin this pandemic mentality of where did this disease come from and how do we trace it back? The typhoid Mary syndrome, I will call it. Typhoid Mary syndrome. This idea that one person caused it all. And if we just know I talked to so-and-so and they were the person who was sick and that's how I got it, and we can trace this lineage of disease. Somehow we're going to get somewhere. We're going to solve something. But we're not. We never solve anything with that. We very rarely learn anything from that, but we do learn how cruel and how dangerous people are with information like that. We saw it during the AIDS epidemic. That is why the AIDS epidemic became such a huge cultural problem, because people with AIDS were being kicked out of their jobs. They were being kicked out of their homes, their groups. People, if you had AIDS, you were a leper. We couldn't touch you. And they doxed you during the 80s. They doxed you so that everybody knows, oh, don't let that person use your bathroom. They have AIDS. And it took, I want to say months, but years. It took years of educating people on how AIDS is transmitted before people started getting their heads clear. How's it going, Roseanne? Before people started getting their heads clear about it. Thank you, Elizabeth, for the report. I'm going to just put this up. This is in South Texas, shelter at home. This is what she has. I'm going to leave that there so people can see what's going on in South Texas. So what we are seeing right now is the exact same thing we've seen with other epidemics socially, in that this has become a weapon. This has become a way in which people accuse each other. The fear from one another that any person could give you the disease has caused this exact kind of paranoia and distrust of one another. And they're enhancing that by keeping us separate. To be fair, they're enhancing that by not only not letting us develop, thank you, Sean, that's awesome, not only letting us develop our immunity by being exposed normally in society as we have through any virus, but certainly, we see these shutdowns, the emotional issues, the economic issues, and the health issues. Look, hospitals across the country are not treating people for regular treatments. You can, if you get shot, they'll still take you to the hospital. But if you have a dialysis treatment, if you have a cancer surgery, something that can be extended in any way, they have done that. And what we're seeing across the country is hospitals actually empty because many patients have been told to stay home. Marita, I haven't heard that as well. I have not driven past the mosque here in DC, although it's not too far and we could go and check it. And I will obviously continue to do that as we go about our daily lives. But we have seen certainly a focus on only Christian and Jewish temples. Now, very interestingly, I want you guys to go check the World Health Organization website. What you will find on that website is a map of the world, the Middle East in particular. And what you will see is that they have removed, they've labeled all the other countries, but somehow they forgot to label Israel. It's really weird. It's as if they didn't want Israel to even be on the map. And so go take a look at that. It's important to know what kind of agenda there is, certainly through the World Health Organization. Let's talk to a little troll for a second. Are you seriously, by the way, are you seriously trying to compare AIDS and COVID-19 and transmission? No, because you didn't listen. See, trolls don't listen. Trolls do not listen. What I am comparing, troll, is the fact that when people had AIDS in the 80s and it was found out, they were ostracized and they were demonized and they were abused and bullied. They lost their jobs, lost their friend groups, were kicked out of schools. That's what happened in the 80s. And we're doing the same thing to people who have coronavirus now. That's what I compared, which if you had paid attention, you would have known that. And frankly, that's actually a very apt comparison and it totally makes my point. And it makes my point that people like you come and you want to fear shame us into saying, this is what they all do. They come in, they say, how could you compare those two things? But they don't listen. You don't listen. You don't listen to what I'm saying, which is if we're going around trying to hunt down who contracted it from whom, we become this horrible society that bullies and torments people for something they have no control over. There's an illness. At least in AIDS, you have some control over it. You could probably keep keep it in your pants. So we have to push back. Why? One, this is killing our economy. Two, this isn't working. This hiding us in our homes from the virus is not working. It didn't even work in China where they welded the door shut. People, human beings, whether they're free human beings or not, are not going to tolerate that for an extended period of time. And we won't tolerate it here in this country as well. We are certainly going to see far more chaos from the fallout of these shutdowns than we are going to see from the disease itself. Now, does that mean go around licking everybody? No. We can, like Sweden is doing, like South Korea is doing, we can practice safe precautions without shutting down our economy. It's not like no one else has done it. Many states actually are still doing it. But until we push back, you know who's calling? No, I didn't say this. This is what this idiot doesn't listen. We're going to put him up. No, I'm going to call you out. I'm going to call you out, troll, because I literally didn't say that. This is what they do. So you think that social distancing is wrong? No, I think shutting your job down is wrong. I think shutting down employment is wrong. I think that we can, quote, social distance. In other words, keep ourselves protected, keep our hands clean, keep our services clean, keep people who are at risk in a safe location and engage in protective behavior. Look, if we are forced to be in an environment where we have to be closer than 6 feet together, maybe that's where you get into protective gear, face masks and such. Okay? There are all sorts of ways. Sweden, I'm not the only one saying this. Sweden, South Korea, many other, not all of them, but there are other nations, there are other states that are remaining open but taking precautions. So to think that to take that tack that you guys love to take, where if I'm not saying let's shut down all the economy and nobody has any jobs and we just let all the businesses die and then we'll just have the government pay for everybody to live. If I'm not a freaking communist, somehow I want to kill the world. No, we're not taking that. Stop misinterpreting people's words. Listen to what people are saying. Stop being morons. If you're this stupid, don't be on the internet. There. Straightforward. If you're this stupid. So, if we don't push back, you know who's calling right now? Those idiots. You know who's calling the government? Those guys. The fearmongers. The fearmongers and the panicking Pams, they're the ones calling. And when they call, they say, please shut us down. Please shut us down. Please burn more of my rights. Please take my Constitution. Where's my Constitution? It's there somewhere. I set it down. Oh, look, right beside. Please take my right to assembly. Please take my right to practice religion, exercise religion freely. Please take my right to buy guns. This is what people are saying. Those are the people who are calling. If you want your job back, if you want your economy saved, if you want actually to reduce the death rate in this virus, this epidemic that's going to actually include a lot of deaths that aren't necessarily from the virus. And I don't just mean because they're saying everything that is a death is now the virus. People are going to start killing themselves. Crime is going to start happening. People are going to actually start dying from hunger. I wouldn't deny this at all. I was told those begging to stay home are being paid to do so. Yeah. And they're calling. They're calling every day. So we need to call. So let's learn how to do that. Let's learn how to do this. It's so important, but it's so easy. Okay. When you are calling your governor or your mayor, this is what you're going to do. Don't just call. Pick up the phone. I do that sometimes. When you just call, you're angry. You spew a whole bunch of things. If you get a person on the phone, but you don't feel like you've made any progress. If you want to feel like you've made progress, like you've really succeeded at getting a message across, we're going to follow these steps. And it's easy to do, but if you do a little bit of preparation, you will be able to effectively call your governor, call your mayor, call the president, call the Senate, call whomever lawmaker you might ever need to call in your life. It's the same steps. So learn them now, and you're going to use these steps for the rest of your life. This is how you engage your government. Step number 1, write 2 sentences that address your issue. Write 2 sentences that address your issue. Suzzanne, why am I writing 2 sentences? Let's hold this up. Why am I writing 2 sentences? I'm sure there's more I have to say. I'm sure there's much more I have to say. There is. Don't worry, we'll get to that. But you are going to make sure that you have a very clear message. When you call up, you are going to make sure you have a very clear message. Yes, Mick, I am in lockdown. We live in Washington, D.C. We're locked down just like everywhere else. If you paid attention at the beginning of the show, you know that. But I'm mostly saying that not to you, Mick, but to Golf Cam, who has decided to come and troll rather than pay attention. It's fine. I don't care. Maybe they'll learn how to call their government. So you write 2 sentences. For example, in this situation, the 2 sentences could be, I am not happy with the way the mayor is handling these shutdowns. I do not like her threats of jail or a fine. That's 2 simple words, 2 simple sentences. It could be something else. It could be like, I do not like that we are releasing prisoners for this coronavirus epidemic. I think that is endangering citizens and needs to stop immediately. When you're using those 2 sentences, you can use very strong, but not foul. Don't cuss at your governor. It's not going to help you. You can use very strong language. One of these sentences needs to be a sentence that says what you want. Okay. Oh, no, I'm actually broadcasting on 4 platforms, just to let you know. So if what you want to say is, I don't want you to be shut down. I want people to go back to work. Make that one of your sentences. Okay. So important. Very, very key. Now, okay. You don't want to just call and give 2 sentences, but you do have this. Right here. Okay. Number 2. Make a list of points or talking points, as the case may be. Let's take a picture of that comment. We'll just take a picture of that comment. You guys are super cute, you fear shamers, but we'll just blast you later. I'm just going to do this. We're just going to come in here. So we'll just show everybody how you treat people later. It's fun. It's fun for the whole family, their death threats. So make a list of talking points. Now, why are you going to do this? Well, when you call up, and you're going to see in the next thing, when you call up, what you're going to do is try to get them to write this down or put this, if you get the voicemail, put this first in the message. These 2 sentences. You want to make sure that when you hang up that phone, she has written these, she or he, whoever the clerk happens to be, has written these 2 sentences down. That's why you've written them down, so that you can make sure that you have delivered them correctly. Okay? Then you can have your talking points. Make just a nice list. First 2 sentences. I don't like the way you are handling the shutdown. I think we should be able to get back to work. It is hurting the economy too much to be closed. Great. Now let's have some talking points. There's 50,000 people out of work here in the city. We saw unemployment go up by 17% or whatever in the last 2 days. We're starting to see criminal activity. Make your talking points after that, because you'll have an opportunity as you're talking, as you're either talking to the voicemail or you're talking to the clerk, you will have an opportunity to mention these things. You will have an opportunity to mention these things. Now, Roseanne, I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to pull this up. Roseanne says the swamp doesn't care. Guess what? If you don't ever call them, not only does it matter that they don't care, you didn't even try. So what you're actually saying when you say that is, we are not a government by, of, and for the people. This Constitution, where's my little buddy? This is fake. This is garbage. We don't own the government. We're not the owners of the United States. We're not the arbiters of these people. We are not the boss of them. And none of that is true. We are the boss of them. This is a government, a citizen government of, by, and for the people. The only way that they get away with it, not caring, as Roseanne says, the way that the swamp gets away with not caring is we just don't call. We don't call, we don't write, we don't email, we don't show up at their office. But the people who pay lots of money to push these agendas on us do. The gun control people pay a lot of money to come and lobby in that big white building over there. The climate change people, they lobby. The leftist progressive agenda that is costing our lives, our jobs, they pay to lobby, but we don't even pick up a phone. If we don't at least begin to pick up the phone, they've already won. And it takes 5-10 minutes. 10 minutes of your day. What I'm telling you, give me 10 minutes of your day for the next week. 10 minutes a day. Call your governor. Call your mayor. And here's how we're going to do it. So, let's review. We got number 1, write 2 sentences down. Write down 2 sentences that address your issue, because you're going to make sure that they have those written down before you get off the phone with them. You're going to make a list of talking points, so you're not just blathering. You're going to try to hit these points. Whatever it is. If you think the tax rate is too high, you call and say, look, tax rate is too high. It's causing people to leave, good families to not be able to afford property. Poor families or working class families are being strangled economically. These are all talking points. You will be able to add this. Now you're going to call. Okay? You've got your talking points. You've got your 2 sentences. They're written down in front of you. You got your piece of paper. 2 sentences, your talking points. You're ready. You look up your governor's phone number. You're going to call. If you don't get through, call again. If you don't get through, call again. If you get through and then it hangs up on you before you talk to a person, call again. Keep calling. Just keep calling until you get to either A voicemail, or B, a person. And what you're going to do is you're going to leave a written message. Okay? Now, Suzzanne, how am I leaving a written message if I'm using a voicemail? Well, guess what? Voicemail is great. Voicemail is an awesome thing. If you have the voicemail, that means you have their ear for as long as that message will let you go. You have full 5 minutes. Okay? So if you get a voicemail, what you're going to do is do the same thing that you've done. You are going to state your 2 sentences. I am calling because I don't believe in this. I want you to do this. 2 sentences. Then you get your talking points. This is why I don't want you to do that. Or this is why I want you to make the change. Because of this, because of this, because of this, because of this. Go ahead. Then in the message, you're going to repeat. You're going to repeat You're going to repeat your 2 sentences. Repeat them several times if you need to. That message, a clerk has to listen to that and write it down and pass that information on to the governor or the mayor or their assistant. Okay? So that message definitely goes through. If you get a voicemail, say it. Say it. Okay? Use the voicemail message. It's very important. If you get a person, you tell them, hello, I am calling. I would, as a constituent of whatever state, whatever your, city, I would like to leave a written Thank you, Denise. I would like to leave a written message for the mayor or the governor. I just did this today. I would like to leave a written message. Can you write this down? That's what we're going to ask him. I would like to leave a written message for the governor. Can you write this down? They're either going to say yes or they're going to put you to voicemail, and we already talked about voicemail. If they say yes, that's why you did this. That's why you wrote down your 2 sentences. That is most important, because when you say to the clerk, I need you to write this down. She can't write down a whole paragraph, you guys. You can't just bark at her for 20 minutes and expect her to have written it down. She or he cannot. You have to be very clear, and you're going to make them repeat what you wrote down. So you are going to issue your first very important sentences. Tell her what those are. Ma'am, this is what I'd like the message to say. I do not approve, talk slowly. I do not approve of the shutdowns in DC. The mayor is killing jobs and I am unhappy. That could be the message. 2 sentences. Okay? Then you go, can you read that back to me? She'll say yes. Great. Now feel free at that point to bend her ear and say, look, these are the reasons I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't like this. She's going to write some of that down. That's good. But the topic, so important, the key message, I want the city back open, is in your first 2 sentences. That is how you leave a proper message. Let's review. Before you even pick up a phone, before you even need to look at a phone number, what are you going to do? You're going to write down your 2 sentences that address your issue. 2 sentences, 3 at the tops. 3 at the tops. 2 sentences, 3 at the tops. Okay? You're going to have those written down. Sentences written down. Talking points. You're going to have your talking points ready. Boom, boom, boom. Talking points. The reasons you support that. Other things you might want to add while you're talking. Okay? You're going to call. You're going to keep calling. You're going to continue to call. Okay? If you get the voicemail, you're going to leave a voicemail message, but you're going to do exactly as you would do. You're going to say your 2 sentences and then talk about your talking points. Leave your name and number. What? Yes. Leave your name and phone number. That way they can get back to you. So many people call and they don't hear anything back. And they go, I didn't hear anything back. I called, didn't hear anything back. Well, did you leave your name and number? Okay. Leave your name and number. So they can call you back. If they decide, maybe they will call you back. Probably not. But it shows a level of relevance, and frankly, it's a way in which they are going to be able to list and categorize that message and find it later, because you're going to do something else. Let's see if I can find the last piece of paper so I can write down this last thing you're going to do. So you've written your sentences. You've got your talking points. You've called. You've left a written message, either in voicemail, which, as we know, they're going to have to write it down and hand it over to the governor doesn't listen to the voicemail. Okay. The clerk listens to the voicemail. They write it down. So that is a written message. When you use the voicemail, it's a written message. When you get a clerk, it's a written message. Okay. Number 5. This one's easy. You've called, you've left a message. On your sentences, put your date. Okay? You have your 2 sentences. Write the date on it. What date did you call? What date did you call? Why is that important? She's going to call back. She's going to call back. You're not just going to call once. You're going to call back. And when you call back, you will be able to pull up your sentences. Okay? That's what's so great. This is why you're going to put the date on it. Let's just put the date up here. Let's just put date. Okay? This is why you're going to pull this piece of paper back out. Right? And you pull the piece of paper back out. It says date on it. Your 2 sentences. You're like, great. When you call the governor or the mayor back, you say, I called on March 23rd about these 2 issues. I've noticed the governor has chosen to continue these policies. I am even more frustrated. And then you get into your talking points and you start the process again. And as you have called back and as you have called back and as you have called back, you can begin to demand that somebody call you back. And then you're in a conversation. Now, what's important to understand is for every one person, for every one person, do you know how many people, for every one person that calls a political office, a congressman, a senator, a governor, a mayor, the president, for every one person that calls, they think 1,000 people agree with what you're saying. That's the math. When for every one person, if I call, it's as if 1,000 people are saying, Muriel, we don't like the shutdowns. You are representing 1,000 people when you call. Now, when you start calling more and more, you're representing more people because they start listening to your voice more frequently because the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Yes, Marita, call, continue to call. There is no reason you can't call every single day. Most of them are mayor or governor to thousands and thousands, if not millions of people. Feel free to call every single day. Be nice about it. You know, when you have your 2 sentences, but call every day if you want. And when they call back and say, hey, this is Suzzanne Monk. I'm just calling yet again just to remind you, I am really unhappy about this situation. I am really unhappy about this policy. I genuinely believe the mayor needs to be doing this differently, and I am going to continue to call until I see some results from our mayor. If you keep doing that, eventually they'll call you back just to shut you up. I've known people who have called so much they call back just to get you like, okay, we're gonna call you back just so you'll stop calling us. Maybe if the governor sends you a letter or something, you'll shut up. They engage. Be the squeaky wheel. Get the grease. Be the early bird. Get the worm. Call every single day. Here's the reality. You can call every state, but it is most effective to call in a state that you are living in. You can call every county, but it is most effective to call the county you are living in. You can call any congressman, but it's most effective to call the congressman that is in your district. Obviously, that you are a constituent of, because that way they know that your vote can, in fact, affect them. And that's very important to understand. That is one of the reasons that your elected officials are so responsive or not responsive, is based on how safe they feel their seat is. If they feel that they can't be unelected, if they feel they have no competition, if the Republican Party, as in many states, many blue states, unfortunately, if they feel the Republican Party isn't going to offer any challenge whatsoever, then they don't have to respond to constituents. But calling, nagging, calling in this professional manner, responsibly, will in fact get a powerful result, and we're going to continue to do that. We need to keep doing that because people like these trolls are the ones actually making all the phone calls right now. I just read an article. I shared it to my page just the other day, just yesterday, in fact. President Trump talking about how his advisors, they were talking about President Trump's advisors, and he is still hearing from his advisors that the majority of the Americans are happy to be shut down. They'd rather be safe and shut down than open with a job. Now, is that true? Or is that just the people who called? If that's just the people who called, we have to engage. So please feel free to leave the message at the White House. Feel free to email the White House, Marita. That's so important. When you've called, just because you called doesn't mean you don't have to, you can't send an email too. You can send both. You can call, you can send an email, you can send a letter. You can call, you can write an email, you can print out the email and put it in an envelope. You can inundate them. The left does it all the time. We should not be afraid. You're not pissing anybody off by calling and emailing and snail mailing. So what if you piss them off? They work for you. They work for you. So let's just show you some dumb things that some of the trolls are saying. So you understand the reason you need to call is because the people who are actually calling are these idiots. Yeah. People who strangely believe that Trump is killing thousands. Okay. People who call everyone who loves Trump poorly educated, which is interesting because they don't. This would be my Mensa plaque. You see, unfortunately, I'm not poorly educated, so that totally kills your narrative. It's kind of sad that you guys keep using that narrative. They continue. Let's see if I can find the death threat. Let's see if I can find this one. Dun 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 dun. Bum bum bum. There we go. These are the kind of people who are calling. And just in case you're not aware how completely hypocritical they are, here we go. Just so you know, I go to work every day in an essential manufacturing facility. How about you? Good for you. I'm glad you still have a job. But the policies you're advocating have actually put millions of people out of work. So, of course, they want jobs. They want to be able to go freely. They don't want it for you. So that's why we call. That's why we call. EQ is an audio sound. See, this is the problem. I could tell you what my IQ was, but you're not even smart enough to understand what IQ is, as we can see. All right. I know. Trolls. That's why you need to call. You guys, those dumbasses are the ones who are influencing our government. So get up, call in the morning, call in the afternoon, call your governor, call your mayor, call your state congress people, call your lieutenant governor, call them all, call everybody. Keep calling, keep calling, keep calling every single day. If you don't want to call the same person every day, call the mayor one day, call the governor the next day, call the White House, call your congressman, call your senator, ask them for help. Same process. You can make a cycle. As long as we are on shutdown, I want every single one of you to make a phone call every single day. Golf camp, I have a solution for you. Oh, I'm actually scared to go to work. I wish I could stay home, but I'm essential manufacturing. Guess what? Quit your job then, you pussy. Yeah, then quit and stay home and let somebody who actually has the balls to be outside of the house have your desperate job. Mister, I have a job, but I don't want to stay home with everybody else. The most absurd thing I've ever heard. It's insulting to the millions of people that have lost their work. Utterly disgusting. These are the kind of people we're fighting against. These are the kind of selfish, arrogant, hateful, spiteful people that we're fighting against. They don't care about anybody but themselves at all. They care only about how the world affects them, what their privileges are, and they want literally all of your privileges taken away from you because that way they get more privileges. Because then they get to be special. They want you to suffer so they can be special. This is the kind of disgusting people we have on the other side. So disgusting. Ugh. Either way, the Constitution works for all of us. Unfortunately, it works for idiots like that guy as well. So, all right. As we all know, let's just here we're just going to review some few things that we said. Contact your government, of course. Support small businesses in any way you can. So many small businesses are shutting down, you guys, and it's going to be time to start engaging in civil disobedience and resisting these shutdowns physically. As you know, if you are arrested for one of these shutdown orders, certainly there are a lot of legal attorneys that are available to help you in that scenario to push back. If we do not push back, if we do not at any point make a legal challenge against these shutdowns, we can't get them shut down through the courts. And that we need both to get them shut down politically through our phone calls and political action, but we also need that legal aspect. The courts can do a great deal. And when states start to feel that it's going to cost them money, significant money, to engage in these policies, they will in fact back off. Yeah. So the most important things, your daily to-dos: pray, live, and hug. Not telling you to forcibly hug strangers, but if someone is willing to give you a hug and you're willing to give them a hug, hug them. The human body depends on physical contact. Okay? No cough on their face when you're hugging them, but hug people. Have a moment of physical connection. Okay? It says a bunch of things. One, it is biologically necessary. We have to physically touch people as humans. It's biologically necessary. So hug. So important. Two, what most important thing about the hug, it helps you get over that fear. That fear that they're telling you, oh, if I touch people, I'm going to die. But you're not going to die. You're going to, at most, like every other infection, you might get a disease, you might not. You're probably not. 99.99% not going to get a disease from hugging random people. You might. The likelihood that it's going to be a deadly disease, microscopic. So hug one another. Third, it tells you that it shows adult respect. And when we have a government that tells us when we can go out, whether or not we can buy alcohol, whether or not we can own a gun, whether or not we should be able to go and see a performance, whether or not we can buy a book at Walgreens or a magazine because we're taking too long in the line, when we have a government that nanny states us, you have to push back. You have to demonstrate that you are an adult. You can take care of yourself. And a hug kind of does that. It says, I respect you as an individual, and you respect me as a grown individual who can make their own damn decision. I don't need the government to tell me whether or not I can hug somebody. Ever. We founded this country on a smallpox epidemic. We have been through multiple epidemics, and we have accomplished many other things. The Spanish flu was actually during World War I. Have you noticed they don't mention that? They don't mention the Spanish flu. They go, oh, we had a Spanish flu epidemic. Okay, we were in the middle of World War I. Many of those deaths occurred because of trench warfare, because of food shortages, because of environmental issues, wet, dank issues, conditions that people were in, stacked up on top of each other. That's what happened. They don't tell you that because they don't want to tell. They don't want you to tell history. So we're going to continue. We're going to continue to do that. We're going to continue to tell you the facts. We're going to continue to mock at the trolls. Okay? Because they're idiots. And many of them are probably paid to be idiots. I couldn't be paid to be that stupid. It's not even humanly possible. There is not enough money on earth to pay me to pretend to be that stupid. At all. Yeah. Nishama, I'm going to put this up. Thank you, Nishama, for sending this. Yes, I have 4 family members in healthcare, and they're not scared to go do their jobs. They're just grateful to be employed. That's right. That is right. And anyone who has their job right now should feel that. And Nishama, I am grateful for them. I am grateful for those folks continuing to go and do their jobs, being put, unfortunately, in the mix of this horrible crisis for people. The healthcare professionals, they are unfortunately in the middle of this. They are in the middle of this, and I have nothing but my respect. I have nothing but my respect. Let's educate the trolls and then we'll pray for them. How about that? The Spanish flu killed 50 million people worldwide. You might want to check your numbers. It killed 500,000 people in the U.S. Numbers are actually 40,000 people, 40 million people worldwide, 500,000 in the U.S. Yeah. So, there you go. Now, don't listen to the fear shamers. Here's one of the favorite things they love to do. They love to do this. You're not telling the facts. And you can show them the facts. Literally, I had somebody, I did a mathematical problem. I took the number of people in America and I divided it by the number of people who had got the virus, and I showed my math. And they said, you're not speaking facts. And I said, where in the math problem are not facts? I have told you how many people live in America. I've told you how many people we currently believe have the virus. I did math. What fact am I missing? And then they threatened me. So they don't doubt yourself when they say you don't have facts. Push ahead. And don't listen to them when they tell you that you should be ashamed. They should be ashamed. They are literally putting millions of people like this jerk right here are putting millions and millions of people out of work. In fact, globally, it's probably billions of people. And let's be honest, for these third world and lower income nations, these nations that are actually economically struggling, nations throughout Africa, etc., it is going to be millions of people starving because of your fear mongering. They should be ashamed. They should be ashamed, not you. So let's pray, like we like to close every single show up. Pray, live, hug. Let's pray. Holy Father, I want to thank you for all of the folks that have come here today to listen and to be educated, Lord, on how we can engage our government. You have given us such a wonderful system of citizen governance, and you have enabled each and every American to be active, to be an active participant in the ability to lead ourselves through, of course, our beautiful Constitution, which we thank you so much, Heavenly Father, for putting the wisdom in our founders' hearts to create this document and to ratify it, to pass it and to ratify it. Certainly, we are very grateful for the freedoms that we possess. We are in a difficult time, Lord, as you know. And I want you to strengthen each and every one of these people who have listened, and anyone who might listen to the message. Strengthen them. Help them to have the ability and the calm and the power of voice, Heavenly Father, to make these phone calls, to call their governor, to call their mayor, to reach out to our political officials and to let them know we are not happy, Heavenly Father. We are not happy with the way they are leading us, and we feel that they are destroying our Constitution, and we find that unacceptable. Give each and every one of these folks strength. Protect their families, Heavenly Father. Heal those who are sick, but even more so, protect those who are struggling in ways we don't see. You know, it is such a big deal right now to be sick and to have the virus, but we certainly don't have nearly as much sympathy for the folks who have lost their jobs, who are just trying to struggle through and figure out what to do next, Heavenly Father. So I ask that you protect those individuals closely. Wrap your arms around them, lift them up, and lift up this nation as a whole, that we might move quickly through this horrible time, and that we might once again join you, Heavenly Father, in being a shining light to the world and being that example of kindness, of compassion, and of Christian faith that literally shows your love all around the globe. We thank you so much. Heavenly Father, I ask you to watch over President Trump, continue to protect him and his family, continue to shut out those words of misinformation, Heavenly Father, continue to give to him truth through his soul, Heavenly Father, and those who would mislead him or misguide the American people, may they be banished away, and may they certainly reap the just rewards for their behavior. I will, of course, wish that each and every person who is listening here tonight stays safe, sleeps well, and wakes up with hope in their heart, Heavenly Father. I ask you all of these things in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ, and of the Holy Spirit, and of you yourself. Amen. Amen, everybody. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. We will be back again on Friday. We'll have more to talk about. And we'll have more trolls to make fun of. It's going to be fun. Until then, this is your girl, as always, Suzzanne Monk. Jumping out.